They're eating the dogs, Kieran, in Tuscaloosa.
They're eating the
you
dogs.
know that?
They were
They're
eating
the dogs.
Oh, a meth raccoon.
Yeah.
Just awful. There is nothing good about this. It's the worst possible scenario for the CFP, for the national championship.
Notre Dame is a mid-program with really good marketing.
And the Michigan players are going to look at that, and anybody who's committing to Michigan in the next years will just go, I want to beat them even more. Like, I wanted to beat them when I first came to the school. Recruits are going to see this.
And we're also sorry that you have to watch a Brian Kelly coach football team. We can only imagine how difficult that must be for you, knowing that you're not going to win a big game ever with him as your coach, and that you're rooting for a child murderer.
This podcast has gone off to a really weird start, but I like it.
I love it, though. I'm a big fan. We're back. It is March, and it's March Madness time, even though we are a college football podcast. I'm going to make Kieran talk about it. But one thing I've noticed in our intro, I wish I did the clips sort of in a more chronological order, because as my beard grows, it looks like I'm descending further into madness, and I kind of wish I could convey that in our intro. But I'm not, I'm going to have to redo part of it because I made a concerning realization this week, Kieran, that I told you about. So there might be a new intro next week, which is sad.
A few small editorial adjustments.
Yes. It will be the end of an era for Tailgate in the Quad with this change. Ever since our first intro I did with actual us talking in it, we had a running bit, and I feel as Belly Up and as we want to legitimize ourselves, we probably shouldn't be saying one specific thing in our intro. We can still say it in the show. I'm fine with that. He did kill the kid, but in our intro, probably not the best idea.
No.
Which is sad. Nobody's making me do this, by the way. Kieran and I joked as my cat's automatic feeder goes off in the background. Kieran and I have joked like either they don't care or just nobody watches this show at Belly Up. And that's kind of hurtful.
Yes. We do it for the love of the fans, not for any moral high management sort of thing. It's purely for the love of college football. That's why we do this podcast.
We don't do it for corporate overlords or
or sponsorship
overhead expenses. No, we do it for the love of the game.
Yeah, there's nothing like sitting at 35,000 feet eating caviar in first class. No, we're down here on the ground grinding through this.
We are in the mud, in the trenches.
The trenches. It's the gridiron, baby.
Yeah, I was sick dying last week, and we still put out a show. All for our fans.
Of course.
But as mentioned, it is March. Kieran, are you excited for March Madness?
Yes, in theory. Frankly, I couldn't give a crap about college basketball. I understand why people enjoy it. March Madness is a time of upsets and chaos. So that's fun. That's always fun to watch. But generally speaking, I'm good.
I sort of agree. I don't watch a lot of college basketball. I watch Alabama basketball, and that's really it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now. In the past, maybe I'd put a game on here or there, but now it's just Alabama or I'm watching something else. It's exciting. Did you fill out a bracket?
I haven't yet. I'm waiting for the final bracket lineup to be released. It might have already happened or not, but
I think it very much was released.
Okay, well, I went online today to look at it, and there was still 2 or 3 teams that needed it to be filled out. So maybe they've played their games since I looked at it. But regardless of that, I have a funny anecdote for this whole story. My work, so I work in and around the Philadelphia area. My work sent out a message that says, hey, anybody want to fill out a bracket for March Madness? Too bad Philly U, which they are referring to as Temple and Drexel, are not in it this year. And it's so sad. Now they're being sarcastic about it, but I felt the need to respond and just go, neither is Penn State, but you don't see me bitching about it.
That is fair. Here's how much I pay attention. Is Nova in it this year?
I would assume so. Again, we don't check this stuff before we podcast, which is probably a bad idea. This is all just raw content.
Podcast. Like we don't know what's going on. All right, I'm looking at the bracket right now because I don't remember seeing them when filling out my brackets. I don't know if they are.
That would be hilarious if they aren't.
That's sad. That's sad. Kieran, do you know Alabama's playing in round 1?
No. Who are they playing?
Robert Morris University.
Fun.
Was he? So he's in the news, and I'm seeing if it's the same Robert Morris or if it was just jokes. But no, it was founded in 1921 and named after Robert Morris, some other guy. Okay. All right, that's a little better, I guess. Anyway, Robert Morris was the founder of a church who was arrested the other day for lewd acts with a 12. I don't want to just lie. Okay, he has a sexual misconduct page on his 5 felony counts of lewd or indecent acts to a child. We're just going to share real quick just to show. Here's the page on his Wikipedia labeled sexual misconduct.
It's long. It's very long. It's uncomfortably long. It should be. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's bad. That's really bad.
Yes. He surrendered to authorities yesterday, though.
That's
up to 5 counts, up to 20 years in prison for each.
Yeah, so life.
Yes. Well, yeah, life. He's already 63.
Oh.
1 count, 1 20-year prison stint might be the rest of his life. So yeah, so there's that's what's going on Twitter. There's also some drama surrounding March Madness, Kieran. I don't know if you saw this.
Well, no, obviously not, because this is the college football podcast.
That's true.
Hit me with it.
So UNC basketball got into the first 4.
Oh, this, yeah, okay. I did see this.
And they weren't on a lot of brackets because they have experts pick brackets and like who they think will be in. A lot of schools like West Virginia, who were on 111 of 111 expert brackets to get in, were left out. And North Carolina was let in over them after a not great season, which, I mean, good for them. You love to see that for these schools, the surprise. Except the selection committee chair is the athletic director for UNC and was getting like a $60,000 bonus if they made the tournament. Do you have thoughts?
It's blatant is what it is. It's a blatant hypocrisy. It's blatant corruption. I don't know if there's a legal precedent to challenge that or not, but like that is just pathetic. That is genuinely sad.
Yeah. Also, Kieran, you mentioned legal precedent. West Virginia's trying.
Good. They should, and
legal
they
action.
Better win. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, do you know what the Danny Cannells and Joel Klatz of the world are complaining about?
Oh, probably something completely not this.
It's biased and corrupt that the SEC got 14 teams in.
Oh, God, shut up. Just shut up. I don't care. The best teams deserve to get in. Not the most deserving teams, the best teams. Simple as that. Stop trying to make it a fairy tale run every goddamn time.
And apparently also the teams whose AD is head of the selection committee deserve to get in.
Yeah.
Obviously. No bias or corruption there. No, the SEC and Greg Sankey. That's where the bias is.
Yeah.
But back to football now. I just want to talk about that real quick. Can we stop talking about a 64 team? But I also brought up March Madness as we're going back into college football world. Can we stop talking about how a 64 team college football playoff would play out? Because the winner of that tournament would be chronic traumatic encephalopathy, commonly known as CTE. Antonio Brown would get a lot more friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's insane. Chris Lowe from ESPN put this out. I don't think he was pushing for this. But it was just kind of like, here's who the 1 seeds would be. Here's who the 2 seeds would be. Here's blah, blah, blah. But there are legitimately people who want to go to a 32-team college football playoffs.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's absurd.
Like, look, I like football. I love football. Some would say too much. I would say not enough, but I like watching more football. However, I don't need to see some 18-year-old with his mangled knee as he's on to his third regular college football season, really just on the quarterfinals of the playoffs you people want.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. Like it's this thing where there's a reason that March Madness has a big tournament like this, and there's a reason football doesn't. Basketball can be played, relatively speaking, almost every single day. Yes, your body will eventually get tired and you will need rest. But for the most part, basketball is a fairly continuous sport that doesn't rely on massive collisions every single play. Football is exactly that. That's why there's only 1 game a week. That's why these teams get 2 byes to rest and recover their guys, because they'll need them in future games. You cannot be having people play this tournament style thing, because you still need the games in order to set the bracket, right? You still need to have X number of games to set the bracket. Now, I don't know how many number of games that would be, but then to have them play all that additional stuff is ridiculous expectation.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. It would be, I don't want to say malpractice because these aren't doctors or attorneys. It would be wildly negligent.
Yes, it would be. No, it would be criminally negligent is what it would be.
Yes. And a lot of doctors and lawyers would get the chance to do some malpractice when they get involved with this.
Yes.
If this were to happen, they're not seriously talking about
this is all hypothetical.
That I might legitimately show up at Charlie Baker's house with hammers. If he tries. And then
we'll get there eventually.
It's for the kids, though, Kieran. We got to protect the kids from people like Robert Morris and Charlie Baker.
I would argue that one is slightly worse than the other, but yes, your general point is
what is way worse than the other? Unbelievably worse. That's up for you to decide. It's the Robert Morris thing. All right. Speaking of children, Kieran.
Oh God, that was no. Oh Jesus.
Do you ever come across Lane Kiffin's Twitter?
No. Well, I mean, during the season I do, because he pumps out tweets like there's no tomorrow.
Well, he does that in the offseason too. And a lot of it is he just posts articles that were written about him.
Oh, yes.
And apparently, or his family, because in a now deleted tweet, this is also not, I can confirm this is not Photoshop. This is not AI. I saw this tweet with my own 2 eyes and screenshotted it. Lane Kiffin tweeted an article today. Lane Kiffin's daughter Presley crushes sheer top leather pants fit with blue hair with the squinting tongue out emoji. Now, we know Lane is horny. We've been abundantly clear about that on this show. And usually we're supportive of it. You know, you do you, Lane. If they're a consenting adult, go for it. That is your daughter.
Yeah.
It says it right there. Daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think if it was just any other word besides sheer before top and any other type of pants besides ones notoriously tight. Like,
there's
daughter Presley crushes flannel mom jeans with blue hair. Whatever.
Yeah.
I was wildly uncomfortable seeing this.
Yeah, as you probably should be. That's that gives the South a horrible kick in the teeth as they're trying to fight the allegations that people make about it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not great.
No, it's I will say this. And as much as I don't want this to happen, it could be worse. This is bad, but it could be worse.
It could be worse. That's very true. That is, yeah, still not good.
No, very much not good.
Apparently, someone bonked him, though, for this horny tweet because he has since deleted it.
Well, yeah.
Thank God. But 165 people, when I saw this, it was around 4:30. I don't know when he deleted it. Yeah. 165,000 people saw this tweet.
That's rough. That's rough, my guy.
Yeah. Concerning.
Very. So I'm just looking at this thing here. I don't necessarily. Oh, I see this from si.com. Okay, so is that like? Oh, that's rough.
I don't know if it's actually from SI.
Okay. Oh, maybe it's the picture that's from SI. That's what. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. It's a horrible look. I mean, 165,000 people see it. We're talking about a podcast. We're not going to be the only ones talking about this.
No.
Actually, you know what? Let's go on Twitter right now and see if people are still talking about it 6 hours later.
That's true.
Oh, wait, I have to call it X now, don't I?
No, you don't. It's Twitter.
Okay, cool.
Also, I went to the Sports Illustrated post about it, and they've changed the title. Now it's Lane Kiffin's daughter Presley grooves in blue hair wig with friends in TikTok dance. So I don't know. I don't know, Kieran.
It's great. If you go on Twitter right now, everybody, I know this isn't released now, but everybody type in just Lane Kiffin in the search bar, and you obviously can't see this tweet, but you can see some of the responses to it, and it's great.
Oh, Kieran, that's the beauty of video. I can just look it up and then pull it up on the screen.
Oh, even better.
Unfortunately, I'm not getting. Okay, there we go. I'm getting some of them now. I can get off the screen. Now we're going to shame him for it by going through these Twitter results. These are great. You got Chris Kahn from Elf, Steve Carell, a random ass TikTok that someone posted. The most accurate one.
Bro, that's strange.
Congrats, Hayden, on your official visit.
Yeah. Not a great time to be posting that.
No. All right. Now these are all just unrelated now. But yeah, so people were not thrilled with
to cover himself, right? There's a tweet from only 3 hours ago. It says day one Ole Miss FB, which is his dog, and he's got like a goose or pheasant or whatever he was hunting today. But yeah, not great.
Could he have set this up automatically?
Possibly. I mean, see why he couldn't.
I'm hoping that was it. That it's like, hey, whenever something is posted about me, I want it like automatically tweeted, or an intern or an assistant who's just a creep.
Yeah, probably.
I mean,
probably on the Lane Kiffin account is actually his burner. It's actually the intern's burner.
Well, maybe. I mean, he has his history working against him for things he got up to in Tuscaloosa about being a creep, but it could be an intern creep or an assistant creep. But either way, that is the most disturbing thing I saw today.
Before or after Robert Morris?
I think I saw that yesterday.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So also poor decision maker, Carson Beck. And this is a very drama-filled episode, Kieran.
It is. I mean, it's the off season. What else do we got going on?
That's true. Actually, I'm talking about his decision-making on the field. He is not a good quarterback. But then,
now off the field.
Off the field, he's also a dipshit. He decided to transfer to the University of Miami because he was dating one of the Cavinder twins who play basketball for Miami. Which one, I couldn't tell you. I don't care that much. Only to cheat on her before the season even started.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Kieran?
Well, some people are as stupid as they are ugly, because you don't need a 20-minute Google search to find out who they are. And I think anybody will subjectively say poor decision, just genuinely poor decision.
Yeah, especially when you look like Sid from Ice Age.
Yeah, you don't get brownie points for that. Like, they're not going out with you because they think you're attractive. They think, well, it's sympathy.
Well, in his case, he's rich.
Well, okay, sure. But,
they're also very rich, though,
so
by
far.
The way. The Cavinder twins are also loaded because of NIL. But, yeah, and it raises the question. Is Mario Cristobal on the hot seat, Kieran? After recruiting a quarterback who's so dumb that it just giving him the keys, giving a Georgia player the keys to anything is a bad choice.
Yeah, seriously.
But giving Carson Beck the keys to your offense is probably the worst kind of keys to give a Georgia player.
Yeah, and I mean it's one of those things, like it's exacerbated, right? Because you already know that, generally speaking, Georgia players are poor decision makers, and then you saw it last season, and then you bring him in for God knows what reason, and then he fumbles even before he's touched a football this year. So I mean, you must be on the hot seat. Like, you have to be on the hot seat. The AD is probably looking at these guys, at Cristobal's contract, going, surely there's a way out of this.
Yeah. What's his buyout? That's what I want to know.
Oh, here we go. Another Florida buyout. Florida.
Yeah, exactly. Except this one
is going way less money.
Jared from the corner booth would be pissed. Because he's a Miami fan.
Oh, I thought it was because it was a massive contract.
Well, no. Well, so he signed a 10-year, $80 million contract.
Okay.
He's 3 years into it. So that's going to be $56 million buyout.
Yeah. Thereabouts.
So, because I think if he's fired, then he owes. Yeah, as of last season, his buyout was at least $62 million via FanSided. So I'm not sure. Oh. College football's 10 biggest coaching buyouts entering 2025 season. Thank you, Brad Crawford from 24/7 Sports. I don't care, Matt Rule. 61 years.
61 million.
Yeah, that one's a little more dicey because Miami is a private school, so they don't have to report his salary or his buyout options. You want to just go through the whole list, Kieran, real quick?
Sure, why not?
All right, we'll keep things fun. This is a very dense episode for just a
It is.
Matt
it's weirdly dense.
Yeah, Like the last couple weeks, I feel like we spent a lot of time on like the secondary or like the main topic, and now we have so much to talk about. Matt Rule, $55 million.
Okay.
So James Franklin, Kieran, $56 million. Next up, if this wants to load, it's not going to load. That's fun. Dabo Sweeney at Clemson with $60 million. He signed that contract in 2022. That was a little bit later. We already touched on Mario, $61 million. That's at number 7. Brian Kelly, the man himself, at $62 million. I wonder how many scissor lifts he got in that contract. Our good friend Mike Norvell at $63 million at number 5. The fact there's 4 coaches higher than him is concerning. Sark over in Texas, $64 million. Okay, Kalen DeBoer, $70 million.
Wow.
I like DeBoer. Don't think my reaction is,
oh God, no,
that's bad. But oh my God, no. $90 million
for Smart,
for Lincoln Riley.
Ooh.
That's number 2.
Oh, that's wild.
Kirby Smart, $118 million.
Damn, that's a lot. That's a lot of money.
Worth it.
Worth it? Is that what you said?
Not to fire him. No. To having him at a contract that expensive is very much worth it for Kirby Smart.
Oh, yeah.
No, that'd be, I'm an Alabama fan. I'm not that big of an Alabama fan to say, no, it's worth it. Fire him.
118 in the hole.
Yep. Lincoln Riley at $90 million, not worth it.
No, absolutely not. He's a good coach, but he's not worth $90 million.
Yeah, no. Kalen DeBoer remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Sark, worth it, I'd say. Mike Norvell, not worth it.
No.
So, yeah, there's the most expensive buyouts. Did any of them shock you, Kieran?
Lincoln Riley, and I was pleasantly surprised to see James Franklin up there.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I was shocked that Lincoln Riley's was that high. I'm not shocked he was there.
Yeah, I think it
like
was more
on that list because
I think it was more the number rather than the actual.
Yeah, no, that was something. But some more coaching news. Paying people or not paying them, according to UNLV, who, according to their athletic director, Eric Harper, can only afford the first 2 years of Dan Mullen's salary because, as he told the Board of Regents, the athletic program is $26 million in debt, and that's why Sluka did not get his NIL. I'm joking. But, Kieran, thoughts on your favorite team?
Disaster. I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to have to fundraise. They're going to have to go to the casinos. The AD is just going to have to put it all on red and just hope it hits.
Honestly, not the worst idea in the world.
Right? I'm gambling in my school's future athletic department.
That would be hilarious. It's the city to do it.
Oh, yeah, seriously. I mean, if you win, set. You're absolutely set. But if you lose, you're out of a job. I'm sure you can find another one.
He let his department go $26 million in debt. Are we sure he's not out of a job anyway?
All right, granted. But
no, it's not to bring other sports into again. It's kind of like the Celtics. Like, you'd better hope you win the championship within the next couple of years, because you put yourself in a money hole.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe Dan Mullen will just coach for funsies.
Yeah. Well, this is just my side project. I'm actually really art.
He's there for the gambling, but he figured he could coach a little too on the side.
Yeah.
Or he just wants to be in the next college football game. For those who do not see it, the College Football 26 Deluxe Edition cover leaked the other day, and there's coaches on it. As I'm pulling it up because I'm wildly unprepared for things. I believe it was Ryan Day, James Franklin, Kirby Smart. If my computer wants to load. Thank you, computer. That one's on me. I'm not going to blame my computer, actually. There we go. Share. Thank you. So, yeah, you got some mascots. You got James Franklin, Kirby Smart. I think Ryan Day's somewhere in there. So, yeah, coaches might be coming to College Football 25. Which it kind of sucks they weren't last year.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you feel it took away from the game?
Without the coaches?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Some people were really upset about that.
Yeah, no, because you're not the coach. Okay, yeah, the coach is important, for the real world situation by calling plays or putting people in position to call those plays. But ultimately, they're completely irrelevant for a video game. Like, they're just there purely for the fact that they are a face associated with the program.
I think for Dynasty, it didn't matter one bit. You create your coach and you go.
Yeah.
For Road to Glory, I think it would have been cool.
Right, but not essential for the feeling of the game. Whereas, like, if you had, your favorite, you're growing up, you're watching a particular team, and your favorite running back isn't in it, that's an issue. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, how is, I'm just going to use the Penn State example. How is Nick Singleton not in it? Like, he is the quintessential running back. He and Katron Allen are the quintessential running backs for Penn State. You can't have this game and not have them in there. So, but like you can still have that game and not have James Franklin in it because he's not essential to the players playing on the field and their stat line. Like, you don't have coaches' stats, right? Sometimes they call a great game, sometimes they call a shit game, but players will have an overall metric of 2 to 3 years where it makes sense that everything averaging out gives you a total of a 94% overall player. You don't need that for coaches. It's irrelevant.
That's true. I don't disagree. It's just one of those things I think would have been cool. It's nice to see them rectify. I hope they fix other things first, like not having high schools in Road to Glory. But it's kind of cool that they are listening to fans and kind of adding things that they said they wanted.
That's true.
And with the next game coming out, NIL and EA Sports came to a new kind of payment structure. Kieran, what did they come to? Because I completely forgot.
No worries. So they came to a new agreement that anybody who opts in for the new game next year will receive a $1,500 payment as well as a copy of the deluxe edition game. Now, there are roughly 11,000 players currently eligible to do this opt-in NIL type deal. And at $1,500 a pop, that is a total of, hold on, I had it here earlier. $16 million for for EA to pay out to these players. Now, with that being said, EA pulled in, I think I have it here, an excess of $1 billion, or sorry, excuse me, I'm reading all these statistics wrong. The American football games are on track to exceed $1 billion in net bookings for the 2025 financial year. So that would be an absolute pittance pay for all these athletes. And I'm just thinking, like, yeah, you have to be equal because they're all being in, but surely up it to $2,000 wouldn't put a dent in your earnings.
No, but I understand. I think it sucks, and I think that's part of what got them into the issue last time was the NCAA stupid rules. But I understand kind of not paying that $2,000 until they have to.
Oh yeah, I'm not suggesting that they pay them like right away. It's just that they're owed it.
Yeah. No, I get that. It sucks a little bit, but also, I mean, I think just being in the game is kind of cool.
It is. It is very cool.
And I'm obviously not a professional athlete. These college kids basically are at this point. So I don't know how their brains work, but I think just being in the game is cool. So hopefully that $1,500 does not become a bigger issue down the line.
For the love of the game. That's what this is about.
And also because you don't own games anymore, you rent them.
Oh, I know. It's the most infuriating thing. But also, actually, this brings up another great point because I know for a fact that while I don't have the figures off the cuff here, those coaches, Kirby Smart, James Franklin, Ryan Day, Dan Lanning, if he's in it, right? Lane Kiffin, Kalen DeBoer are all getting paid for their name, image, and likeness to be in it. I don't know how much, but, it's one of those things that if it comes out that they're be paying any less, or excuse me, if the players are being paid any less than the coaches or substantially less than the coaches, there's going to be another riot on the hands of EA Sports and or the NCAA.
Yeah, I hope they're paid the same amount.
Yeah. If it's like $2,000 for coaches and 1,500 players, I'd be like, all right, whatever. But if it's like, oh, here's $10,000, bad looks.
I actually think it'd be worse if they were paid not worse than $10,000, but I think they should be paid the same or less.
Yes.
Because as you put it, Kieran, nobody's buying the game for the coaches.
Yes, exactly.
I'm buying the game.
Not necessary.
Yeah, it's so hopefully they should just have it like be a year behind. Oh, so this year the players all got 600. The coaches, you all get 600.
Mm-hmm.
Next year the players goes up. Coaches, you get 15.
Fair.
I think that'd be a good way to do it.
That would be.
But another coach making headlines, not for anything bad, actually. Rich Rod, back at West Virginia, has banned TikTok dancing in the locker room. I don't really think this is super newsworthy. I think it might hurt recruiting to a degree.
Okay.
If someone is picking between two schools, like if a 5-star from West Virginia who grew up loving West Virginia, they're probably still going to go there. If someone's picking between two schools and they're like, I don't know which one, and one coach's like, yeah, no, do your TikToks. I do not care. And a coach's like, no. Yeah, no. Who are you going to go with?
All right. Well, let's be real here. No recruit or recruiter is going to be like, oh, by the way, you can't do TikToks. They're not gonna point that out in any part of their introductions or whatever. So I would say like this is more like a coach controlling the locker room and not letting it get out of hand. And I know that sounds stupid because it's just stupid TikTok dances or whatever, but it's almost like a level of distraction for the players because, people are addicted to social media, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And especially, we're, almost 10 years older than these kids coming in. And so they have a whole different view of social media than we might. But frankly, if I was a coach, 45, 50, 60 years old, I'm viewing any of this crap as a distraction. So he's just like, look, I'm going to nip this in the bud right now. I think this is a waste of your time. You could be watching an extra minute or two of film. You might pick up on something that you didn't do. And I know this sounds stupid and all hypothetical, and it totally is. But I think it's just a good way of a coach saying, here are the ground rules. Don't break them. Simple as. And just leave it at that. And if somebody, breaks it, guess what? You're not playing, you're off the team, you're suspended, whatever.
I think suspending and kicking a guy off the team for breaking this rule would be insane.
Okay, again, this is all hypothetical.
I'm not saying they would not threaten this. I think it'd be insane. Like, obviously, if it's like a meeting, don't. If you're hanging out in the locker room, you should be able to do TikTok dances.
But I'm thinking this message is more for, hey, when you come here, you're coming to work. No TikTok dances, no social media crap in the locker room. You want to go do that in your dorm room? Fine. Don't care. But when you're here to work.
Rich Rodriguez is a government employee. Is that correct, Kieran?
Yes. If it's
to all players at West Virginia, you have rights guaranteed by the Constitution of this country that says a government employee cannot impede your free speech.
Okay, yeah.
So any 5 stars at West Virginia who are good, who feel that this is a violation of their rights, because you have rights, goddammit. Don't let these universities take those away from you. Come on down to the University of Alabama, a place known for letting people exercise their right to free speech at all points in our country's history.
And never once have a single blemish on their record.
Not a one.
I was going to go into this deep, in-depth, philosophical work versus the First Amendment right now. You've nipped that right in the butt. And I'm glad you did, because this podcast would have been way too long.
I'm just here to defend these kids' rights afforded to them by our founding fathers.
All right. We'll leave it there. I'm sure this will come back up when somebody posts something stupid.
Exactly.
Like Lane Kiffin, for example.
Yeah, there's a lot of rights in there. Don't you ever forget them or let the government take them away from you. If Rich Rodriguez tries to tell you, hey, here's my son, he's in the military, he's home, he's got to stay in your dorm, tell him about the Third Amendment. I think that's the right one. He cannot do that.
Yeah. What is it? Military personnel cannot be billeted in private homes, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It might get dicey because if you're living in a dorm, that is technically government property as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you have rights. And this is why, outside of the fact that I'm 5'7" and wildly out of shape, I could not be a D1 athlete because I would 100% make that joke. If I went to a public school, hey, stop talking. Hey, you're impeding on my rights as an American. Then I'd be kicked off the team.
Yeah.
So
moving on.
Kieran, would you say we have a right to know how our teams are doing?
Yes.
Well, these coaches are taking those rights away, Kieran. They're not airing spring practices.
How dare they?
They're not even. Well, most aren't. They're like, we're not airing it. We're not opening it to the public. Blah blah blah. And then Dion comes out. He's like, yeah, I'm trying to schedule like an actual game for that weekend. So, who wants to play?
Dion.
Yeah, he just wants to scout another team to take all their players in the transfer portal. Part of me understands it. Like, in this era of the transfer portal, you want to kind of keep things a little closer to the vest. You don't want to be just showing your stud freshman you just got on national TV. Well, national TV, basically. Balling out, and then have someone else go, oh, I want him.
Yeah.
But I think these schools then need to find an alternative, just because, like, for a lot of these schools, this is the only kind of quote unquote game that some of their fans can go to.
What do you mean? Like, in terms of
spring games are primarily free.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's what you mean.
Like,
Yeah.
the people of Tuscaloosa, not all of them, obviously, but a large portion of Tuscaloosa population cannot afford to go to these games. With the parking, the ticket prices, all that. The spring game, the 8A game, was the only chance they had to see this team play in person. I think giving them an alternative would be a good idea.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, you've raised all the best points about like the downsides of this, but like, yeah, what would be the alternative? Like, what could they possibly do?
I do not know. I am not smart enough to determine that, and I'm not paid to determine that. If a school wants me to, I will put in the effort, but I don't know, like a meet and greet sign, because they also sign stuff, at least at A-Day. So they running of the gumps, they called it, in a mocking way, because the fans would like then run to get stuff signed. Stuff like that. Just something to replace it. An alumni game.
There you go.
Just something. Cool. But yeah, I don't know. Kieran, do you feel as strongly about this as I do, or are you just kind of like, it's fine?
I mean, you raised a good point that I didn't think about early on before this, because frankly, I would have just said, like, whatever. Like, it's just a game that you can't go to. But when you put it that way, it does bring up an interesting question. It's like, if you have these situations where people can't attend the games, the normal games, because they're just being priced out, which is 100% a thing. I don't know. Like, I guess you can still have the game. You just don't need to be showing your entire hand. Like, if you just run pro right, power right, you can do that, and you can run a couple of slant routes and just tell the DBs just not to hit the wide receivers so hard. You should be okay.
That's true.
You can still make it fun without like showing your hand or anything.
Yeah, I mean, but also though, if these are football players, they're inherently competitive.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Even if I say like, "Hey, run a slant, go half speed," someone is going to decide to catch a slant, juke a DB out of their shoes and house it, and then
yeah.
And for schools like Alabama, maybe it's not a concern. For a school like Purdue,
it's a good point. Yeah,
that is probably a very real concern. If they got that one kid that fell through the cracks,
you tear an ACL or something on a stupid cut route. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, or then like a school like Alabama comes calling.
Yeah,
and it's like,
there you go.
Hey, bud, you want to come?
We've seen
come
enough.
Down to Tuscaloosa. Yep. But our last topic for tonight, Kieran, and you were very confused about this.
I was.
It was
because it seemed too specific.
Well, I want to talk about it. The year is 1984, Kieran. Reaganomics is in full swing. The Soviets might nuke us all at any minute. But we have football to play, goddammit. And we're talking the 1984 Heisman Trophy race. Because I want to discuss, did they get it right? 1984 was also a weird year for college football. It is the last time a non-Power 5 team won the national championship, when BYU in the WAC won it. But yeah, it was a year weird. The three finalists for the Heisman that year were Doug Flutie, Keith Byers, and Robbie Bosco. Robbie Bosco, obviously, I don't know why I'm saying obviously. BYU's quarterback that year. Keith Byers, Ohio State running back. Doug Flutie, the 5'7" quarterback from Boston College. I don't actually know how tall he is. He might be 5'9". Stats real quick. Doug Flutie, 3,454 yards, 27 touchdowns, 11 picks. Keith Byers, 1,655 yards on 313 attempts, which is a 5.3 yard average, 22 touchdowns. And then Robbie Bosco, 3,875 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. And we talk a lot about Heisman moments. Doug's was the Hail Flutie play against Miami. 47-45 win for Boston College, probably the high point of their program. Keith Byers was during their game against Illinois, 67-yard touchdown run, lost his shoe at the 40 and continued to run without breaking stride, scoring the touchdown. And then Bosco's came really in the national championship, the de facto national championship, which is the Holiday Bowl against Michigan that year. Do you think they got this right, Kieran? There's other people, if you want me to go through the top 10.
You can if you want for the sake of the people listening.
All right, I'll go through some more. Bernie Kosar was number 4. Miami's quarterback that year, 3,642 yards, 25 touchdowns, 16 picks. I don't think he was even – it was no debate with Bernie Kosar there. Kenneth Davis, running back out of TCU, 1,611 yards, 7.6-yard average, which is impressive, 15 touchdowns. I think Byers had better numbers. Bill Fralick, an offensive lineman out of Pitt. Cool. Chuck Long, Iowa quarterback, 2,410 yards, 16 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. I love football before the year 2000. It's hilarious. Greg Allen, running back for Florida State, sub 1,000 yards, only 8 touchdowns. Jerry Rice, who on Sports Reference does not have his stats. I had to look them up somewhere else. I can only find them in an NCAA blog comparing him and Cooper Kupp, as they both went to FCS schools. In the 1984 season, Jerry Rice had 103 receptions in 10 games for 1,682 yards and 27 touchdowns. And then Reuben Mays out of Washington State, running back. He had 1,637 yards and 11 touchdowns. It was not close at all. Doug Flutie had 678 first-place votes, and Keith Byers only had 87. Kieran, do you agree with this decision?
No. Based on pure stats alone and the fact that BYU won the championship, Robbie Bosco deserved that Heisman as well. You have more yards. Granted, it's only about 300 more yards, 400 more yards. You had, what is that? 6 more touchdowns?
Yep.
Than Flutie, and the same number of interceptions. Like, you could argue that the completion percentage was a little bit lower. Fine. But the overall output in order to win the national championship makes the difference. And the fact that he came in third, with 20 first place votes is ridiculous. Doug Flutie is a good player. Don't get me wrong. And if this were any other year, you could argue that stat line is insane. But to put him up against Robbie Bosco with that, no, absolutely not.
I mean, Robbie Bosco did throw the ball about 70 more times than Doug Flutie in that year.
Right. And you could argue that is the defining characteristic, but the numbers speak for themselves. Touchdowns win games. That's the fact of the matter. And to win the national championship on top of it, yeah, you deserve the Heisman as well. The Heisman is just the regular season MVP.
Yes, and I think the issue is a lot of people that have with it. A lot of people have this issue with it now. So I was looking something else up. They sort of just give it to the best quarterback or the quarterback on the best team.
That's sort of how it is in Boston College because BYU won.
Yeah, but I'm saying we're trying to retroactively just give it to the quarterback on the best team now. And look, Boston College did finish, I think, 6th that year in the AP, which very good season for anyone, especially Boston College.
Yeah,
I think part of it was they held Flutie play, beating Miami was a really big deal for them. I understand Robbie Bosco, why it would appear you'd get them, but also you have to go into competition here. The independents at the time were a lot better than the WAC. The independents today would be a lot better than the WAC, even there's only 3 of them, and I think one of them is like UMass still. So I think Boston College, I think Doug Flutie go up against better competition. But also, I think Keith Byers had to go up against even better competition in the Big 12.
That's very true. Yeah.
And college is insane. Some of these rushing stats. I mean, The college record for rushing touchdowns this season is Barry Sanders with 37. So he's not really close to this point. But, and at the time, Mike Rozier did rush for 29 the year before. I think that's part of it. I think looking at it, that was impressive because you just came off a year where a guy had more rushing touchdowns. But I think Keith Byers, I think he did have a Heisman moment. Oh, sorry, it was 5th in the AP poll finish for Boston College at 10-2. I think Keith Byers probably should have. I think you can make a strong argument for Keith Byers. I don't know why this was so insanely lopsided either. That blows my mind. And Jerry Rice obviously putting up absurd numbers in that season because I think, what did I say? It was 27 touchdowns. That's a good amount, but obviously he was in the FCS, so that's not going to get the kind of voting, or that's not going to get the recognition it should. And because it goes in the same argument with Robbie Bosco, is the competition as good as it would be in a Big Ten or in the independents at the time? So I think we might agree here, Kieran. Doug Flutie probably should not have won it, but we disagree on who should have instead.
Yeah, so to that point, right? To that point, sure, it definitely has to come down with the competition. But what I would say is that you're kind of playing to the level of, in terms of level of competition, you're kind of playing people as good as you are. And I guess if that's your argument, you can look at one of two ways. Was Robbie Bosco playing against people that wouldn't last in the Big 12? Was Doug Flutie, or was Doug Flutie playing against, the best conference in the whole league? No, he wasn't, but he was certainly better than the WAC. But to that extent, Robbie Bosco was playing phenomenally for his skill level and for his competition. So it's like you have to compare kind of apples and oranges. Yeah, sure, he might not last 10 seconds in the Big 12, in the ACC, in the SEC, whatever. But he is the best overall player if you were to take that same stat line and put it in each of the divisions. Do you know what I mean? Like if you took those same numbers without the fact that he was in a weaker conference, you would argue that 100% it should have been Robbie Bosco at Auburn. Let's just say Auburn, just for the sake of argument. And yeah, you could argue that if you were to compare, Robbie Bosco at Auburn or another Big 12 school and Doug Flutie at BC, you could say, well, now the stat lines are comparable. It's a toss up of who you like more.
That is fair. I'm looking at their schedules currently. Mm-hmm. BC went 10-2. Yeah, 10-2. Losses at number 20 West Virginia and at Penn State. They did beat number 9 Alabama at Legion Field in Birmingham. They beat number 12 Miami in Miami. They also beat Holy Cross, Kieran. I don't know why that's
big
on the
names
schedule.
Coming out of that school, eh?
Yeah, apparently. And they won the Cotton Bowl against Houston. Then moving on to BYU. This kind of undoes my entire argument. They beat number 3 Pittsburgh to open the season in Pittsburgh. But then they beat, none of these teams are ranked going forward. That's their only ranked game on their schedule. Baylor, Tulsa, at Hawaii, at Colorado State, Wyoming, at Air Force, at New Mexico, UTEP, San Diego State, at Utah, Utah State, and versus Michigan in the Holiday Bowl. Michigan went 6-6 that year. And they blew out some teams. They weren't blowing out a lot of teams, or they weren't blowing out everyone. And then Ohio State, 9-3. They finished ranked 13th in the AP, lost the Rose Bowl to USC. They beat number 14 Iowa. That is also the only ranked team they beat all year, with losses to Purdue, Wisconsin, and USC. basically all road games, with the Rose Bowl being against USC. So I don't know. I'm starting to come around on BYU's schedule. But I think beating Miami and Alabama, both ranked not top 10, but around the top 10, you had 9 and 12 respectively. Am I coming around on Doug Flutie?
Yeah, it sounds like you are.
Winning the Heisman. And also, we understand we are looking at pieces of paper essentially that are telling us these things.
Yeah,
we are not watching the games.
Right. It's completely different,
The only play I've seen from any of these guys' college careers was either clips in the background or something, or the Hail Flutie. So if you have thoughts on who was the Heisman right, is there someone not even mentioned that should have won it? Should we give some respect? Should we give some respect to FCS players? Should Jerry Rice have won it with his 27 receiving touchdowns, which is insane? Let us know on Twitter at Quad Tailgate, everywhere you get social media. You could also check us out on YouTube, which is probably where you're watching that. If not, if you're listening to the podcast, you can check us out, Tailgate in the Quad on YouTube. And if you're watching us on YouTube and you want to listen to the podcast, Tailgate in the Quad, wherever you get your podcasts from. I think that about wraps it up for us, Kieran, unless you have more thoughts on the 1984 Heisman Trophy race.
No, I'm good. I think we can go on this all night, so I'll cut it off here.
That's very true. All right, everyone have a good rest of your week. And, also, Kieran, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, thank you very much.
A day late, but it's fine.
And $1 short. No, I'm kidding.
Did you do anything fun?
The weekend did, but the day of, kind of had to work, and
it was Monday.
Be functioning. So we had, cabbage and corned beef on sandwiches, and we had tons of Irish whiskey. So that was awesome.
Nice.
Straight from the source, straight from the own home country. None of the crap you can buy here. It had to be bought there.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I don't know if I have any whiskey direct. I got one bottle from Ireland. All right. Well, there you have it. Also, shout out Jared from the corner booth. Happy birthday, bud. And
happy birthday.
Everyone have a good rest of your week.
See ya.
They're eating the dogs, Kieran, in Tuscaloosa.
They're eating the dogs.
You know that?
They were eating
the dogs.
Oh, a meth raccoon.
Yeah.
Just awful. There is nothing good about this. It's the worst possible scenario for the CFP, for the national championship.
Notre Dame is a mid-program with really good marketing.
And the Michigan players are going to look at that, and anybody who's committing to Michigan in the next years will just go, I want to beat them even more. Like, I've wanted to beat them when I first came to the school. Recruits are going to see this.
And we're also sorry that you have to watch a Brian Kelly coach football team. We can only imagine how difficult that must be for you, knowing that you're not going to win a big game ever with him as your coach, and that you're rooting for a child murderer.
This podcast has gone off to a really weird start, but I like it.
I love it, though. I'm a big fan.